Everybody loves to talk about the transfer portal, especially transfer quarterback. Over the years, we've seen transfers come in and be game changers with guys such as Baker Mayfield, Kyler Murray, and most recently Joe Burrow at LSU. The transfer portal has become a part of college football, and it is here to stay. So today, I thought I'd take a look at 25 quarterbacks who entered the portal last season and will potentially have a high impact in the 2021 season. We're to go through my top 25 transfer quarterbacks today, talk a little bit about each guy and what they bring to the table for their upcoming seasons. But before we do that, if you love consistent quality college football content, be sure to hit that subscribe button, as you definitely won't want to miss out on what we're doing here on this channel. If you want to support today's video and help more college football fans be able to see my work, be sure to hit that like button and drop a comment, as it really helps the video get in the algorithm. Let me know another topic I could do next, and turn on post notifications so you never miss when I upload. Now let's get started and talk about 25 high impact transfer quarterbacks. At number 25, we have Connor Blumrick. He was an Elite 11 quarterback before he got injured his senior year, and he was rated as a 3-star recruit coming out of high school. He chose to sign with Texas A&M, where he'd play sparingly over his past 4 years, switching positions multiple times. He announced he'd be transferring to Virginia Tech, and he'd switch back to the quarterback position, and you'll head into a pretty intriguing 2021 quarterback battle in Blacksburg, Virginia. Right now, the presumed starter is Braxton Burmeister, who, in case you didn't know, was a former Oregon transfer, but behind him, they don't really have a lot, as Blumrick will have a shot. Redshirt freshman Knox Kadum will be in the mix, and they have an early enrollee in Taj Bullock. At number 24, we have the son of the legendary head coach from Arkansas, Chad Morris. I'm joking, but Chandler Morris was a big-time recruit coming out of the state of Texas, and would originally choose to take his talents to Oklahoma. After not playing, Lincoln Riley kind of held him hostage after he wanted to transfer to an interconference school of TCU. Morris didn't really play at all at Oklahoma, and he will join a TCU quarterback room that isn't exactly the best. Outside of Max Duggan, Morris has a chance to compete for the starting job right away, and I do believe that it is Duggan's job, but if something does happen, we could see Chandler Morris thrown in, and that's why I have him at number 24, as I do think he'll be a backup, but there is a chance something could happen. At number 23, we have one of the greatest Texas high school football quarterbacks of all time in Grant Gunnell. He originally committed to Texas A&M, but he would follow Kevin Sumlin to Arizona, where he would start the past few seasons and looked like a pretty good quarterback. With Jedd Fisch coming in and Kevin Sumlin getting fired, Gunnell decided to take his talents elsewhere, as he will transfer to Memphis. I do think he will be starting next year, but as of right now, Brady White will return for his 6th year in college football, and unless White does go down, Gunnell probably will not see the field. At number 22, we have Bailey Hockman. The former Georgia commit turned NC State commit started a couple games the past few years for David Doran at NC State, but he was beat up by Devin Leary, and he will now transfer. He will take his talents to Middle Tennessee State, or unless something weird happens, Hockman should be the starter going into the 2021 season. It's definitely a downgrade from the Power 5 level, but we could see Hockman ball out, and I'm excited to watch what he'll do. At number 21, we have James Blackman. He was seemingly at Florida State forever, and after DeAndre Francois went down his freshman year, he was thrown in with the Wolves, and he's played sparingly over the past 4 years. Eventually, Mike Norvell probably approached him and said that he would not be the starting quarterback for the 2021 season, and that they were going to move in a new direction, so he decided to enter the transfer portal, and he has settled on Arkansas State. He'll be reunited with a former SEC coach in Butch Jones, and as he starts his new era of Red Wolves football, I expect Blackman to start and be a really good player for the Red Wolves program. At number 20, we have another guy who has seemingly been in college football forever in Jake Bentley. He originally started his career at South Carolina, where he would start as a freshman, and was one of the better young quarterbacks in the SEC. Unfortunately, his time would run out, and he'd get injured in week 1 of their 2019 season, where he was replaced by Ryan Hilinski. Eventually, he decided to transfer to Utah, but he only played a couple games before he decided to transfer away from there as well. His new destination will be down south, and one of the less heralded programs in the FBS, South Alabama. They'll be under first-year head coach Kane Womack, who is the former defensive coordinator at Indiana, and Bentley should have the opportunity to start right away. We'll see if he can put up big numbers in the Sun Belt, and I'm curious to see how well he will play, and if he loses that job, it's just sad. At number 19, we have the biggest meme quarterback on the list in Jarrett Guarantano. In case you didn't know, he was part of a 3-man quarterback class in 2017, and Guarantano somehow played 4 years for Tennessee. He was not exactly the greatest quarterback, but you gotta admit he did work hard, and he had to block out a lot of hate during his time at Tennessee. He threw a lot of bad picks, had a lot of bad plays, and just wasn't the guy that Tennessee football needed to be successful. Luckily, he'll get one more chance due to the extra year of eligibility, and he will join Nick Rolovich's team in Washington State. They have guys like Cameron Cooper and redshirt freshman Jaden Delara, but as of right now, it does seem like Jarrett Guarantano is the starter, and despite throwing a pick on his very first play in the spring game, he will likely be the starter, even though I like Delora the best. I do think he could easily get beaten out or benched during one of the first few games, that's why I have him so low on this list. He may be a Power 5 starter, but I said that this is a high impact list, and I don't think he'll make that much of an impact for the Cougars. At number 18, we have a guy who I was really high on a couple weeks ago, but it has since faded out a little bit as he likely won't be the starter anymore. And that is Alan Bowman. He was a 3-star recruit coming out of high school and showed immense flash as a freshman, throwing for over 600 yards at one point in the game, and he looked like one of the best young quarterbacks in college football. Unfortunately, he has battled nothing but injuries the past 2 years and was pretty inconsistent in 2020 as he was replaced. He entered his name into the transfer portal, and Jim Harbaugh is taking a chance on the grad transfer as Alan Bowman will join a quarterback room that includes J.J. McCarthy, Cade McNamara, Dan Villari, and now Alan Bowman himself. As of late, reports have kind of surfaced that Cade McNamara is likely going to be the starter, but if things do go south, and if Allen really puts in the work in, maybe he could overtake McNamara and be the day one starter for Michigan. I don't think his ceiling is ultra high for the Wolverines, but he has the most experience of anyone on the team, and definitely showed a flash of what he can do in the future in his past few years in Lubbock. At number 17, we have a guy who will likely be at the top of this list when it's all said and done, but as of right now, he is the clear backup. Ethan Garbers is a name that probably sounds familiar because his brother Chase is the starter for Cal. Garbers was one of the best quarterbacks in California high school football history and ended up taking his talents to Washington. Unfortunately, the quarterback room is absolutely loaded there as they've had a ton of guys transfer in and out, and he was just another one. He decided to go back to California and join Chip Kelly's team at UCLA. As of right now, Dorian Thompson-Robinson will be the starter, and Garbers should be the clear backup for the job. In case DTR goes down, Garbers will not see the field unless it's garbage time. I think his ceiling is super high, and he'll definitely be the quarterback after DTR, but for right now, he will just be a backup, and his impact won't be that much. At number 16, we have Joe Milton. Praised as the next Cam Newton, Milton was a big-time recruit hailing from Tampa, Florida. He chose the Michigan Wolverines to try to have an NFL future, and he battled it out with Dylan McCaffrey for the starting job going into 2020. He won the job and had a ton of hype, and would actually live up to it against Minnesota. Both Michigan and Milton were disappointing, and he'd eventually be benched in favor of Cade McNamara. He decided to enter the transfer portal, and many thought he'd go back home down south, and that he wouldn't sniff another Power 5 program, but we were all wrong. He ended up at Tennessee, and he will join a really crowded quarterback room that includes Hendon Hooker, Harrison Bailey, Brian Maurer, and incoming freshman Caden Salter. Milton has a high ceiling, but his legacy at Michigan won't help his cause, but he has the tools to be a really good quarterback, and I definitely think he'll get a couple chances to play, and that's why he's higher up on this list than many would probably think. At number 15, we have Art Sitkowski. The former IMG product originally committed to Florida State before he flipped to Rutgers. He'd start a couple years there and have the opportunity to be the face of that program, but when you chose Rutgers during the pre-Schiano era, you're likely going to fail. He got injured a couple times and didn't exactly put up great stats, so he was replaced. Because of his recruiting ranking and his high ceiling, he would get one more chance and he'll have the opportunity to start right away. He's headed to the Big Ten West as he'll join Brett Bielema at Illinois. And I think Sitkowski will get the nod because of his experience, and I think he has a good chance to start. He very well could be the backup though, but I have him at number 15 because there's a real shot that he could be the starter for Illinois this fall. At number 14, we have Will Levis. The former blue chip recruit chose the Penn State Nittany Lions coming out of college and would become the backup to Sean Clifford immediately. When Clifford struggled, Levis got a few chances to play, but he didn't exactly look much better than Clifford did, and he'd enter his name into the transfer portal. He decided to go down to the SEC, where he will join Mark Stoops at Kentucky. He'll likely battle it out with Joey Gatewood and Bo Allen for the starting job, but right now it is Gatewood's job to lose, and there is a battle, but most likely we will not see Levis on the field unless there's an injury, or unless they play in a different formation. At number 13, we have a guy who could definitely make more of an impact than I think, but it's because he's at a smaller school. Bailey Zappe was a big-time player for Houston Baptist and was one of the most productive quarterbacks in FCS football over the past few years. He's decided to take his talents to Western Kentucky, where he'll have a chance to sling the rock, and he will likely be the starting quarterback for the 2021 season. Western Kentucky was known for their air raid system under Jeff Brom, with history-setting quarterback Brendan Doughty, and maybe Zappe could be the next great Hilltopper quarterback. He's definitely a name to keep an eye on. At number 12, we have Chase Brice. The former 3-star recruit chose Clemson coming out of high school, and when he was thrown in with the Wolves against Syracuse, he saved their 2018 season by leading them to a win. From there, he was once again demoted to backup duties, but he would transfer to another Power 5 school in Duke. Some people had high expectations for Brice last year, but the Duke team was just not very good last year, and Brice would struggle. He'd transfer one more time due to the extra year of eligibility, and he'll head over to Appalachian State. They're one of the better Group of 5 programs, and after a little bit of an off year last year, Chase Brice will be an instant starter and will look to lead the Mountaineers to the promised land once again. At number 11, we have Jack Abraham. Many people probably don't know his name, but get used to hearing it in the fall in the SEC. Mike Leach has developed a ton of good quarterbacks over the years, such as Luke Falk, Anthony Gordon, and Gardner Minshew. Last year was a bit of a struggle after KJ Costello's record-setting Week 1 performance against LSU, but he'll have his work cut out for him, as Jack Abraham was an absolute star the last few years at Southern Miss and will likely be the day 1 starter. He's going to battle it out with Will Rogers for the starting job, but as of late, I've heard that Abraham has looked better, and he played a better spring game than Rogers, so I think Jack Abraham will be the starter, and in Mike Leach's air raid system, watch out. At number 10, we have a name that Georgia fans do not like to think about, and that is D'Wan Mathis. D'Wan Mathis was a big-time recruit coming out of high school, and at one point could have died from a tumor in his brain, but thankfully he was okay. And after Jamie Newman decided to opt out right before the season, D'Wan Mathis was named the starter for the game against Arkansas. Fortunately, he didn't exactly have the best first half against Arkansas, and he was benched in favor of Stetson Bennett. He'd get a couple more snaps here and there, but eventually he knew he wasn't going to be the quarterback, and he entered the transfer portal. He had to find a new school, and he ended up settling for the American, where he chose the Temple Owls. With guys such as Anthony Russo and PJ Walker, Temple's been producing some good quarterbacks the last few years, and D'Wan Mathis was recently named the starter. He'll be at a competition level that's better for him, and I think he has a chance to put up some big numbers this year for the Owls. At number 9, I have a guy that I'm really high on, but no one else is really talking about him, and that is Garrett Schrader. Schrader was a big-time recruit coming out of high school, and eventually chose to sign with Mississippi State. He played a few games as a freshman, but he was most known for the hit he took against Kansas State, trying to get the first down on 4th down. Unfortunately, he did not get a chance to play last year, and he entered his name into the transfer portal. He'll head over to Dino Babers and Syracuse, where they're trying to find a new starting quarterback. After Eric Dungey left, Tommy DeVito was supposed to be the next big thing, but he's been a bust to this degree, and Rex Culpepper is not the answer moving forwards, and I do believe that Garrett Schrader will be the starting quarterback come this fall. Keep in mind, Schrader had an Alabama offer coming out of high school, so he has an extremely high ceiling, and hopefully he can be the next Eric Dungey. At number 8, we have Tanner Mordecai. He was a big-time 4-star recruit coming out of high school and would choose the Oklahoma Sooners. He played the backup role last year to Spencer Rattler and did appear in a few games, but it was mostly in garbage time. He's a really talented player with a really high ceiling, but with 5-star freshman Caleb Williams coming in, he had no choice but to transfer. He chose Sonny Dykes at SMU, which is a program that has been on the rise the last few years, and they've developed some good quarterbacks such as Shane Buechele and Ben Hicks. Mordecai will likely be the day 1 starter, but he will have to compete with 4-star freshman Preston Stone for the job. I don't know what to expect out of SMU this season, but I do think Mordecai will put up big numbers. At number 7, we have Hendon Hooker. The former 4-star recruit out of high school chose Justin Fuente and Virginia Tech, where he'd have a chance to start for the past 2 years. He showed flash during the 2019 season, but 2020 was kind of disappointing, and he entered his name into the transfer portal. He will head over to Tennessee, where they have first-year head coach Josh Heupel at the helm, and him and Harrison Bailey are likely going to battle it out for the starting job. It's too close to call right now in my opinion, but I do think Hendon Hooker may get a chance to start from day 1 because of his experience. If he does start, he has a chance to move up higher on the list, but if he does get beat out by Bailey or one of the other guys, he will definitely move down on this list, but he does have the potential to have a high-impact NBA starter in the SEC, which is why I have him in the top 10. At number 6, we finally get to the guys who I think will have a really high impact in the 2021 season, and we're first going to start with Ryan Hilinski. The brother of former Washington State quarterback Tyler Hilinski, Ryan was a huge recruit and had numerous SEC offers. He chose to go to South Carolina, and after Jake Bentley went down with an injury in Week 1, Hilinski was thrown in with the Wolves and forced to start the rest of the year. He showed some promise, but he definitely needed to mature and get better, and after getting beat out by Colin Hill in the 2020 season, Hilinski put his name in the transfer portal. Pat Fitzgerald at Northwestern opened his arms to Hilinski, and I think he'll be the day 1 starter. The Wildcats had luck with former Indiana transfer Peyton Ramsey last year, and I do think Ryan will have a big year. He does have to battle it out with former 5-star Clemson recruit Hunter Johnson, but Johnson looked terrible during the 2019 season, and he's definitely behind the 8 ball. Hilinski is the likely starter, and I think he can put up big numbers in this Northwestern offense and be a guy that we remember down the road. At number 5, we have Tyler Shough. Shough was a big-time recruit coming out of high school who originally committed to North Carolina, but would later flip to Oregon. He was the backup to Justin Herbert, and hailed as the next great Oregon quarterback after Herbert. He started last year, but kind of disappointed. He was accurate and showed some flash, but he didn't exactly show the promise that the coaching staff wanted, and they played Anthony Brown towards the end of the year. Shough entered his name in the transfer portal, and he will head down to the Big 12, where he will join Matt Wells at Texas Tech. Matt Wells is in desperate need of a quarterback if he was to save his job, as Wells has not done a very good job so far in his 3 years, as Wells has not done a very good job in his first 2 years, and going into year 3, he will definitely be on the hot seat. Shough is the kind of guy who could put up big numbers, and I think he'll have a great season for Texas Tech, and if he does well enough, he could save Wells' job. At number 4, we have Anthony Russo. I mentioned him earlier, as Russo was a 3-star recruit coming out of high school and chose the Temple Owls, and he was a successor to PJ Walker. Russo was a great player there for the Owls for quite a while, and he was actually good enough that he'd have a chance to grad transfer to a Power 5 school. He chose Mel Tucker and the Michigan State Spartans, as Rocky Lombardi had left, and Peyton Thorne was not ready for the starting job quite yet. Russo will likely be the day 1 starter, and in Mel Tucker's improved offense, I think Russo will have a big year, and I'm excited to watch what he can do. I definitely also think he's one of the more underrated players, and no one is talking about him. Number 3, we have Charlie Brewer. Son of a former Texas legend, Charlie Brewer decided to take his talents to Baylor coming out of high school, and he was an instant impact player. Coach Matt Rule made him into a star, and he helped Baylor get to the Big 12 championship in 2019. But with Dave Aranda coming in, the Baylor program kind of fell apart this past year. Brewer's numbers went down, and he decided to look elsewhere. He's now going to an instant competitor in Utah, and Kyle Whittingham is happy to have him. This isn't the first transfer quarterback that Utah has taken, as they took Jake Bentley from South Carolina last year, and have both Cameron Rising and Jaquindon Jackson from Texas transferred to the program as well. Brewer will have to beat out both Jackson and Rising, but he will more than likely be the starter, and he's one of the best quarterbacks in college football returning, and I expect him to have a big year for the Utes. At number 2, we have one of the best success stories in all of college football in McKenzie Milton. Milton was an absolute star for both Scott Frost and Josh Heupel at UCF, but he suffered one of the worst leg injuries we've ever seen in the sport of football, and some thought he'd never play again. He was determined to play again though, as he rehabbed and rehabbed and rehabbed until he got cleared by the medical staff, and he ended up transferring. He chose Florida State, where he has performed really well so far, and is likely named the starter. At this point, McKenzie Milton is a high-impact transfer guy, and with his work ethic and how he is driven, I expect him to have a really good season under year 2 of Mike Norvell's offense. If Milton can get back to his UCF shape, he could be an NFL quarterback down the line, and someone who's remembered in the state of Florida forever. Finally, we get to number 1, and this honestly surprised me, and I had to force myself to put him at the top of the list. Notre Dame is now having to replace Ian Book, who will go down as one of the best fighting Irish quarterbacks ever, and they will look to former Wisconsin transfer Jack Coan to take the role. For a while, I thought there was no chance that Coan would ever play at Notre Dame, because I didn't think he was anything special at Wisconsin, and I thought Tyler Buchner and some of the younger guys on the team would play better than him. Buchner has looked really good so far in spring practice, but I've heard that Coan is likely going to be the starter, and if that's the case, that means he's playing better than Buchner, and that Coan is the real deal. Notre Dame is the highest profile school on this list, and if he's the starter right away, he's going to have an impact. Notre Dame will be fighting for a college football playoff spot this upcoming fall, no matter what we have to say, and if Coan performs the way that many think, he could have the highest impact on this list and could potentially blossom into an NFL quarterback. I could definitely be getting ahead of myself, and he could get benched after week 1, but as of right now, if he starts for Notre Dame, he's the highest impact quarterback on this list. But let me know what you think. Who's your favorite transfer quarterback? Which one will be the best when it's all said and done? And should I do more videos like this? Be sure to let me know your support down in the comment section and hit that like button so more people can see it. Subscribe if you love college football content, and be sure to check out all my other videos, including my video about the top 10 high school quarterbacks. I hope to see you guys again soon, but until next time, peace.